Okay, we're going to have a little look at the binding now. Now I'm using a much smaller piece of fabric than is required in the video, but it's easier for me to get it on the screen using a smaller square. So what I have is a square of my binding fabric, whatever I'm going to use for my binding, and I'm going to make a cut that goes from the top left hand corner to the bottom right hand corner. So what I'm effectively doing is creating two triangles. Let's see if that's actually, I've got two chopping mats, two cutting boards rather, together, and where it goes across the join, sometimes it doesn't cut properly. So now I've created two triangles. You can see those. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one triangle and lay it right sides together with the other triangle to create that kind of look. Now there will be a slight overlap at the top and bottom, and that's fine. If I just move that, you can see it's just a little bit extra, and that's absolutely fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip those two pieces together, and I'm going to go to the machine, and I'm going to just stitch down this edge using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So rather than taking the camera to the machine, I'm going to go and do that, and I'll come back. So I'm going to pause and come back once it's stitched. Okay, so I've now stitched my two triangles together, and I've opened up that seam and pressed it open. So now what I've got is a parallelogram. So it's like a sort of a squashed diamond, if you like. Now we're going to start along the long edge, and we're going to start cutting our strips. The first strip we're going to cut, just let me move these bits and pieces out of the way, is going to be approximately 1/4 inch from the edge, and we do that just to make sure that we've got a nice straight edge to work from. So use your ruler and your acrylic ruler and your rotary cutter, because you'll get a really nice clean cut. And then once you've cut that first one, that gives you can see it's a perfectly nice straight edge. You're going to cut strips from this that are 2 1/4 inches deep. So starting along that edge, let's just get my ruler so that it's 2 1/4, 1, 2 1/4. If you need to move your ruler along, do so. So that's my first one. Obviously there won't be quite as many, and there won't be quite as long, because this is a smaller rectangle than the one that was called for in the pattern, but it's easier to get into the shot for the video. So the same technique will apply regardless of how big your square is. This is a useful technique to know, because it's the same technique for making your own piping. You may not need you won't need 2 1/4 inch strips, but being able to cut on the bias like this is how you do piping too, if you want to make your own piping. Let's just get those threads that are... And you're just going to continue on taking those strips off until you've run out of fabric. So I'll just do one more for you, and then we'll close the video, because I'm then going to take you to the machine and show you how we're going to join these all together. I think I probably need a new blade in my cutter, so maybe I'll do that in a minute as well. But what you'll end up with is a whole load of strips that have a mitered end. Now these strips are stretchy. if you have fabric that's not cut on the bias, and this bit's not cut on the bias, you can pull it and there's no stretch at all. The reason we want stretch is because we're going to be binding around curves, and we want it to not pucker as it goes around the curves. So I'm going to have a whole load of those, and I'm going to stop the video now and I'll take you to the machine and show you how we stitch those all together.